Welcome to BuildWise, the podcast where construction meets wisdom. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the construction industry. We're going to share insightful tips. We're going to dive into the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started in the industry, in construction, got to say that right. BuildWise is your go-to source for valuable insights. Let's build a smarter, wiser future together. Like and subscribe now, and stay tuned for a foundation of knowledge in every episode. I am your host, Mr. Rourke. No, I'm Dan O'Neill. That's tattoo, though. We're going to be discussing.
What do you mean? I don't get it. I don't get
We're going to be discussing women in the industry, right?
Yeah, women.
And now you're tattooed. The plane.
That's completely going over my head. Not the plane.
I
the
know,
whole
but
joke.
that's because you're young. You didn't watch it, so maybe some of you won't get it. But there was an old show.
Well,
Anyway,
considering
it's
our
called Fantasy Island. But anyways,
considering our demographic is likely older men, I'm sure they get it. But let's try and attract some female viewers. So with that, women in construction, I have a lot of statistics because,
of course you do, because you're a woman.
yeah, and I never forget.
Oh, good grief.
But in one of our previous episodes, we had talked about, it was in our superintendent episode, we had talked about how women make up 3% of superintendents, which isn't a lot, but the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics claims that there are roughly 10.9% women in the construction industry in the United States. And I didn't break it down further, but I would assume, because I'm considered a woman in construction, but I'm not out there, laboring and doing all the physical stuff. I'm in the office, and I do feel like a lot of that number, that percentage, is probably women in the office space doing, office management, possibly project management. I didn't really look that up, but just more behind the scenes. In your experience, would you find that that's probably more true than women out in the field?
I mean, I don't know how that's broken down. It'd be interesting to see what percentages those are. Did you get those stats?
No, I just said that.
Oh.
Gosh, I have to repeat myself. Don't make me a nag.
So, and I'm a guy, so I didn't listen, so whatever. So,
it's probably going to be my favorite episode.
So anyways, I'm probably going to get in trouble in this episode. But,
I mean, I've
seen them from project management out in the field. I mean, but there's not that many of them. It's been mostly a male predominantly male field.
Yeah.
And but it's changed a lot over the years. And yeah, I've had some great project managers, and I was on a job site the other day, and there was a female electrician and stuff like that. So, I mean,
yeah, that's interesting, because I've never, if I've ever had to hire somebody to come, fix something at the house or anything, I don't think I've ever once had a female come to my house to fix, whether it's the garbage disposal or electrical or anything. And it's not to say that they can't or shouldn't be in those jobs. I just haven't really seen it. So the statistic to me, even though I didn't get a breakdown of it, it led me to believe that it's more back of the house, behind the scenes roles in construction that women have. And part of me thinks that that's likely because construction is so labor intensive, physically labor intensive, and not that we aren't strong, but I don't know. I just kind of trying to figure out and wonder, like, why there's that gap in construction. So, like, why there aren't as many women in construction.
I don't know. If you want to use an interesting analogy or comparison, I don't think the physical aspects are the issue, because honestly, safety-wise, we have, regulations and different things that you don't lift over a certain amount of weight, you don't do certain things, it'll hurt you.
Yeah.
But you look back at World War II, and you've got women built most of the airplanes.
That is true.
You want to talk about physical labor.
And smarts.
They rose to the cause. They rose up to the cause.
Yeah.
But that was back when, you know, you usually had a single income family and the man was your bread and butter. But then when he got sent off to war, the women had to come in and build the stuff that men used to build, right?
Yeah.
That was a predominantly male industry, you know,
Yes.
like machinery and all these things. And then you have a whole thing of a whole entourage of women building like factories and factories full of women building your airplane that the men were flying in.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And we definitely needed women. But what a clever way for Uncle Sam to get two taxed incomes.
Yeah,
Just,
right.
just
Well, but they were off to war, so
I know.
But my point being is that they're the women in the it's not the physical aspect, so I don't think that should be ever a constraint. And you know, and maybe
Well-
just most women probably just don't like it. You
Yeah.
know, but
Well, actually, that does make sense. Just, I mean, when I first thought of it, my mind went straight to the physical aspect and component. However, when you break it down that way, that does make more sense because we do have safety protocols and there are big machinery and things like that to help with anything that's too heavy or too much for anybody, male or female. So that does kind of make a lot more sense. This is why we talk about these kind of things.
yeah, I mean, I don't know why there's you know, very much smaller percentage in the industry, but I mean, there's
Okay,
no reason to not have them there. You know what I mean?
right. I will say this, and this is probably a little bit of a hot button issue, but in any field, in any industry, I can't even talk, any industry, there's going to be sexual harassment because it just happens. But I feel like, I mean, I've experienced being in the industry a level of sexual harassment. Like I went to Home Depot and I remember you had me go pick up like 50 tubes of caulking and I feel like we can kind of assume where this is going to go. But I'm at Home Depot and I have my cart full of caulking. And what does the guy say to me? He makes a really crude and crass comment about, can I handle all of that caulking? And, it's one of those things that I feel like there are a lot of puns out there and I've heard a lot of them. But women don't want to go to work and hear that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know. I was on a job site the other day and some woman cat called me.
Just lies.
That's the difference. We only hope so, but then
I think you're hearing things in your own that you're like, oh,
the women get
was
all
that at me?
offended, and the men are like, "Oh yeah, you like that? How about this pose?"
oh my gosh. Look at my jackhammer.
I think anytime you get men and women in the same place, there's an opportunity to overstep.
There's so many one-liners though.
I
in
know.
construction.
Well, especially in construction. And honestly, the best thing that, I mean, unless it really crosses the line, but some of those things, if you're all working together and you're all kind of saying, funny stuff or whatever, sometimes the best thing is just to roll with it. It's funny. I mean, and we all, as guys, we all joke around like that too. But I mean, there's things that would cross the line. And I guess I don't want to name them because there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, you will be here forever, but you just got to be, let's, keep it professional. You can crack a few funny jokes or, but, I wouldn't go, I'd be very careful.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know that, like, especially when you get a bunch of men together. I was in a firehouse one time, and the firehouse they were all men. They didn't have any women in there. And I was just a guest. And so they just went on, talking about everything under the sun. And I sat back and I'm like, this is how men talk. But women talk a certain way too. So it does go both ways. But you've talked to me about.
Yeah. Don't make it out like women don't talk dirty.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm just.
Should they? Like the same's true for them. They should not. They shouldn't, because they're women, think that they can get away with it. I think on a job site or anywhere really, being professional and what's the term I'm looking for? Like saying the right things and not saying wrong things is it's important. And yeah,
Of course it is. You know, and I wasn't trying to get away or evade the fact that women say things too. And I think there's a double-edged, there's not a double-edged sword. There's a double standard that women kind of get into the field or any field, and they make comments thinking they can get away with it because they're a woman, and then when a man does it, they get really upset. So, which leads me into kind of like my next area that I wanted to venture into, which is, are there not like sexual harassment courses and things like that that some large companies make their employees take just as a standard?
Yeah, almost all of them do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that story that you shared with me once?
Oh, you're gonna bring that up?
Yeah, you didn't you get caught being
Yeah.
making some comment?
Yeah.
Because you have a sense of humor. We got to have a sense of humor. Gotta have a sense of humor.
Oh boy. Yeah, we had a sexual harassment class, and I'm walking down the hall talking to one of my friends. And I said, I thought harass was 2 words. And the lady putting on the class was walking behind me, and I didn't know it. And she goes, and you, mister, are exactly why you're here. We're here.
Someone's a tightwad.
And my friend, he goes, whack. And I was just like, oh boy.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably were like, shoot, dang it.
But I mean,
I gotta sit in this class.
But to be honest with you, it goes to show you that you can say things thinking that it's lighthearted and funny, but it could be offensive. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, but
and to who, and you know, yeah.
So I'd just be, you just got to be cautious and just, try to just be professional, like you're talking to someone at church.
Talking to somebody at church. Wow. I have comments on that, but when I'm at church, yes, ma'am, no, sir.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Praise the Lord, Jesus. No, I know. But that is not what you hear on construction sites.
No.
Not at all. Well, let's see. Do you find that, I'm trying to find
Trying to be careful about what you say.
No. Okay, so how do you feel we can start encouraging young women to get into the construction industry more? Because it actually shows that companies with strong diversity programs and are 45% more likely to report market share growth and 70% more likely to capture new markets. So it seems and appears that the data is showing women in construction should be encouraged and actually really help grow the market quite a bit.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know that statistic, and I don't know, all that stuff. But all I can tell you is,
You sound like a man.
I am a man.
I don't know.
I am a man. Don't spiderweb on me. So, all I can say is that the women that have worked on our projects, I've had a lot of respect for, and they've done a really good job, and they've. And there's some that they're just great at analyzing problems and trying to. We had one person who was a project manager on a big project. She knew construction somewhat. Mm-hmm. She had a general good knowledge of construction, but she did not have really in-depth knowledge. But what she did have was the ability to gather the data and make really good decisions. Mm-hmm. Based on if she's getting really good input.
Yeah.
And she was also very smart about enlisting, like good advice. Like she would ask me questions all the time. Hey, I got a question for you. I was told this by this guy, told that by that guy. Is that correct? And I'd say, well, blah, blah, blah. And then she was great about taking that data and making a really good decision.
Yeah. Oh. I have so many comments that I'm trying to just bite my tongue on.
Why?
Well, because...
Like what? Say it, and then we can either skip it or erase it.
It would definitely be skips. But interestingly, when you go back to talking about just women in general in construction, there's always the talk about pay gap. And women women in construction typically earn 95.7% of what men earn in similar roles. And this is according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Do you think that the women in these roles and the companies that are hiring these women for these roles give them and pay them less than they would a man? Or is that not really your experience?
Well, labor and statistics, like that's not a skewed department.
I know. Well, I'm
Let's take that as gospel. But
I just
well, I don't know. I mean, I guess, but I mean, like let's just use that last example that I had.
yeah.
Should she be paid the same as a guy that actually knows a lot about construction and makes good decisions too?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I think if she knows as much as the next person, then great.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
pay them what they're worth. Like, not every male project manager or male superintendent is getting paid the same as the other guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you got some superintendents that are uh, good, have good decision making powers, but they don't know that much about certain areas of construction.
Yeah.
They're growing in their industry. They probably get paid less than the guy that knows a lot.
Yeah.
We had assistant superintendents and superintendents that I made a lot more than they did, but they didn't know what I knew.
Yeah.
And so, does that make it? I mean, that's just, if you take the man and the woman element out of it, then and just go by experience and expertise and stuff like that, are they getting paid what they should be getting paid? Probably.
Yeah, I know you're like, don't take that as gospel, and I don't. I really just don't think that they're all that related. Like, oh, just because I'm a woman, I'm getting less. I think that it more has to do with the experience, and that women up until, more recent years have just been getting more and more into the construction field and industry. So to me, I just think it's a matter of us just playing catch up with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I mean, but I've heard that argument a lot, and what I've seen based on what I just told you was it's probably more along the lines, if you put a resume in front of somebody but didn't tell them it was Jane Doe or John Doe, and someone evaluated it and said, okay, based on this experience, I'm gonna give you this much money. Based on that, I guarantee you, just about every time they would probably get paid in different levels based on their experience.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the lady walks in, it's like, oh, it's because I was a woman, and I don't always think that that's the case. Now, I could be
it's
wrong.
very easy for people to use.
I could be wrong.
that.
I don't know that much about all the statistics, and I don't know that much about all that stuff. I just know what I've seen.
Yeah.
And so I find that, highly competent people in their field, man or women,
Yeah.
they get paid good salary. As a matter of fact, the project manager, I think she was getting paid way more than I was.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Well, and we have women working in our company. Actually, are there more women working in our company than there are men? There are.
no, I think it's equal right now.
It might be, yeah. But
Yeah. 50-50.
yeah,
Hey, I beat the stat.
that's your goal in life. Yeah, we are. We're 50-50.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's tremendous value for both men and women. I find it so interesting, all the stats that do come out, because I really hope our society can start to move away from this whole, like male, female, workplace dynamic and the glass ceiling and all of that. I mean, to the degree that we have witnessed it, because
It gives me such a headache talking about all that stuff. I mean,
I know,
because,
but
we're going to get like male, female, like, they, them, who knows what we're talking about now, right? Are they going to feel excluded
more
from
for
this?
me to edit.
Are they going to feel excluded from this conversation?
I don't know.
How come you're just talking about male and female?
Okay. Well,
That's because,
this is
just to be
for
clear,
those-
I believe that there's male and female, no other genders.
correct. And just to be clear,
That's what makes it an easy conversation to talk about this. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well,
If there's any doubt in your mind on what we think, or I think, male, female.
that would be an outlet and a plug, right? Don't they call those male females?
Oh, good grief. Yes, they do.
Please, mansplain.
Well, they have male fittings and female fittings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine
makes
going,
sense.
hey, will you go?
Inner,
Hey, will you go
outer.
get me a they them plug?
How would that work? Could you imagine?
Not
if it
very
was,
well.
If it was two male-fitted plugs, it doesn't work. That's another way to explain the they-them thing.
Oh, I don't know. I think we're digressing really quick here.
I'm gonna have to edit all this out. But it doesn't really work if you have two male outlets or plugs. Where does it go?
I know you can't turn it on. Oh, you can't become unplugged.
That's true.
I know.
Well, no, you can't even be plugged.
Oh boy.
You got to be able to.
This
be
whole
plugged to be
section
able-
is exactly what you're not supposed to say.
Oh, this will be exclusive to bloopers for people that identify as a male or a female.
Yeah.
Identify with their appendage.
Yeah, as an electrical outlet.
Which electrical outlet do
Do you
you identify with?
with
The inners or the outers?
a Decora or a
What's the other
or
one?
standard? I
Oh,
don't know.
jeez. Let's see if I can find something that we can actually talk about. It's funny. There are podcasts out there that totally break open this topic.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You're the editor, so you'll have to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll play it for some people and be like, "What do you think?" Let's see. There's a. This is like gender gap. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so one of the statistics that I found, which I thought this to be very interesting, it estimates that closing the gender gap in construction could add 1.6 trillion to the global economy. I mean, that's a good number right there, just by closing that gender gap. What does it mean to close the gender gap? Like, be 50-50? Because obviously there's a gap, and if 90% approximately are men in the industry, then we'd have to make up, all of that. Does that make sense?
Okay, so why is it so important to close the gender gap?
Well, it just says 1.6 trillion added to the global economy. I mean, that's significant.
Because they can add that much?
Personally, I think that it has to do with getting more women into the workforce, and whether that's pushed by the industry itself or our government to try and get more people out there on the jobs. I mean, it obviously it adds a significant amount of income. To the economy when
Is that stat,
you have more people in the workforce.
Is that stat that they could add that much, or that they do add that much?
No. It says that it could add 1.6 trillion
And
to
how
the
do they
global-
know that?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sitting there.
I
doing
mean,
the
because
statistics.
it's either they're going to hire a male or a female person for that position.
Right.
So it's going to be. I mean, they're not adding that; they're just replacing that was a male position. predominantly, and I think that a lot of companies, even myself included, I don't care whether it's a male or female as long as they're qualified to do the job.
I agree. I think that that is the only thing that should matter. But, you know, this is such a huge topic in our modern society, male, female, the glass ceiling, age, you know, gender gap and this and that. And so the topic, you know, is interesting to discuss. And it is kind of interesting to see the dynamics, what you've experienced, what I've experienced, and, you know, to kind of just bring it all to the table. Now, my thought about how it could add 1.6 trillion to the global economy, I think it more has to do and how that is, because really, just like what you said, if it's just replacing a male with a female, how does that add to it? My thought is it's talking about bringing women that are not currently in the workforce into the workforce. That would add to the global economy. Because now you have more workers. You have more people contributing to the building of, you know, infrastructure and buildings and houses and all of that. So,
see, I don't see it that way.
Okay.
So let's just say we've got, you know, $25 billion worth of work in this valley.
Okay.
And right now you've got mostly men in the industry, right? And some women in the industry, like, you know, your percentages that you quoted. Unless there's more work and you bring in, I mean, you're either going to bring in a male or a female. So it's not necessarily that they're going to contribute to that. It's one of the, I mean, you're going to have a male or a female in that position. It's not like you're adding value because you're adding a female.
I know that the gender doesn't, I'm saying the gender doesn't matter. What I'm saying is because I think it's a matter of most often than not, it is still overwhelmingly women that are at home still. So taking those, because it's going to be women leaving the home and coming into a workforce, it's going to bring in and add to the global economy. It's not about replacing the sex. It's just about now we have more women in the workforce because they're leaving the home to go work.
Well, who's going to cook me dinner?
He was born a long time ago.
I don't, but I like I said, I don't see, I mean.
Who's going to mow my lawn?
I get, I think honestly that I'm seeing more and more women in the industry. Like, I don't know if you noticed driving down the road, a lot of them are holding those signs, you know, stop, slow.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. I do see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it's typical women saying stop, slow down.
Well, you guys need so much instruction.
We do.
And you don't ask for instruction or seek instruction. So we just have to, you know, we do it because we care.
You know, it's interesting. There's a side of this you haven't talked about yet. And it's, you know, men and women, their brains work different.
Yeah.
And no, seriously, they where a guy might be more apt to just like, all right, we're just going to do it this way, you know, let's charge ahead. Mm-hmm. You know, where women are a little more methodical and kind of think things through. And it does bring a pretty good balance to some stuff. Like I remember when I was working with that one lady that one project manager, she brought up stuff that I went, I never really thought about it that way, you know?
Yeah.
And I've been doing this stuff a long time.
Yes.
So it definitely does. It can lend a very well-rounded view to your project.
Well, I think that's just the beauty of men and women. We do balance each other out in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
One thing that I always thought was super interesting. I don't know why. I don't know the statistic exactly, but how many women are in are architects? Because one thing I've noticed is that, especially with homes, there tends to be layouts. You know, a lot more women are in the home for more hours during a day than men typically. But the layouts don't seem very practical a lot of times. Like, for instance, do you remember my house that I had in Temecula? And we had this washroom it was a washroom and a bathroom and a laundry room. And it just like, I remember seeing that and being like, a man definitely put this together. Because a woman would never have done this layout. Because we are doing the laundry and we're cleaning the bathroom and we're doing all of that. And so I think we would have thought a different layout plan because that's our workspace typically. But
well, yeah, and it could
we need
definitely
more women in architecture.
it can bring a different aspect to things, you
Yeah.
know, and a different perspective. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really shouldn't be that tough of a conversation to have. And I think everyone needs to lighten up a lot on this whole male female thing because honestly, in this industry, you know, unless you're a complete Neanderthal owner company kind of thing, and I'm by no means, you know, sophisticated when it comes to all that stuff, but from what I've seen in the industry, I've actually had, you know, some great people that I worked with that were women.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't have a sense of humor anymore, go be a nun. I don't know.
Go be a nun. Nuns, some nuns are funny. You know what I
None
mean?
of them are.
I know. I was just gonna say that you beat me to it, you little jerk.
Because I work with you. I'm around you all the time.
Oh, that's a bad habit.
That is a bad habit, hanging out with you all the time. No.
No, the habit. None.
Oh, goodness. I lost my train of thought. I think at the end of the day, you got to have a sense of humor. You got to be funny. You got to laugh. Be lighthearted because this is life. Like, you know, you got to think there's a lot of history that, you know, when these topics come up these days, there's a lot of history that people tend to forget. And that's when women really started getting into the workforce. And there's kind of, you know, it's not that we're behind because of intelligence or lack of skill or anything like that, but women prior to, you know, would you say World War II, really weren't in the workforce as much. It was, I know that there's data and statistics. I've heard people like Candace Owens talk about these statistics and just drop it. But I do know that we started later. So it's not that we're behind because we're less intelligent or less capable. It's just because we're catching up. And we're doing great. I think women are doing great in the workforce.
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, but yeah, back then it was a single income family. The man went out and worked, and then the wife stayed home and, you know, took care of the kids, washed, cleaned, did all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a full-time job. I mean, it's, you know, it's a lot of work actually. I know when mom was sick a few times and I had to go do all that stuff and everything. It's like, you know, it's a lot of work.
You were exhausted.
I was. But
and then he got sick.
then I got sick. But you know, it was but then things have changed. It takes two incomes now. You know?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
it's nuts what's going on in this world. And so it takes two incomes. And so, you know, out of sheer necessity, I think, you know, it's kind of gotten to this point. Me personally, I like the fact that I really think that some of the problem that we have with the youth today is that they don't have an adult at home with them.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and it's their latchkey kids, and I think that, you know, that's where, you know, when Johnny's, you know, acting up and mom's over there going like, wait till your father gets home, you know, that's, you know, instead there's none of that. They get to do whatever they want and nobody
Yeah.
knows, and so they're, you know, running rampant, and you know they're in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, that's so true. And you know, it's one of the cons to not having somebody in the home because, you know, now we're getting into something totally different, you know, away from construction. But it is true now. You know, women being pulled away from that, our kids are kind of suffering. It's sad.
No, it's totally true. I think we're running out of time.
Oh,
So
well, I got a lot. I'm going to edit out anyway, so
I
it's
know.
okay.
All right, anybody and everybody,
Men and women, ladies and gentlemen,
male and female, ladies and gentlemen,
female
boys
plug,
and
male
girls,
plug.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and squirrels.
Oh, brother. All of the above. That's 2 categories.
Anyways, that's all we have time for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope I don't get in trouble. Please take it all lightheartedly. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Please share this with your friends. Only ones that have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
The rest of them don't. And then, thank you guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.